What's up guys, my name is Andy. I want to remove the rear seat in my 66 Mustang and put in the Shelby Rear Package Tray. Now this is an easy install, it's only a couple of screws and a couple of bolts that hold the seat into the car. We take that out and we put the new tray in, it's only a couple of screws to hold it in place, and it's pretty simple. So let's get started. Now the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to push open the trap door because the latch is set up to attach to the back of this. So we need to get that unlatched so we can pull this piece out. And then we can remove these two Phillips screws, one here and one on the other side. Next, there are two 1/2-inch bolts on either side that we need to remove so we can pull this upper seat out of the car. They say that this removes roughly 85 pounds from the car, moving these three pieces. So we got that rear deck piece, we've got this folding top piece, and then we still have the bench bottom to pull out. But between those three, they say it's about 85 pounds of weight removal in one load, which is great. And this bottom seat piece can be a little tricky. You have to push down on the seat and kind of push back to get it from to unhook from the front hooks here, and then you can pull it out that way. Now, because I'm not going to be using these rear seat belts, we can go ahead and pull these things out. The two bolts underneath the panels over here are just going to be a little more time consuming just to remove, because you got to use something like a box end wrench to get them out. But you can just use a regular wrench on those ones. Now's a good time to take advantage of cleaning this out if you haven't done that already. Also, you want to keep these shims and hold on to these things because you might need these if you ever want to go back to putting the seat back in there. So what I want to install is this piece right here. This is a fiberglass. It's the Shelby Rear Package Tray. This is for the 66. In 65, there was a back piece that came up because the spare tire would fit in there, and then there was no ribs. So in 65, it looked a little bit different. Also didn't have this lip on the front here of the shelf. This is a much more rigid piece. If you were to get the 65 one, if you have a 65, it's probably what you want to do, but this still works. In fact, I think I read somewhere that the 65 to 69 rear seats are all the same dimensions. So I think this might even work in the 67, 8, and 9 cars, but check that out. I'm not sure on that one, but I think I read something about that. Anyways, this is a superior part because it's got this ribbing in here, so it makes it a little more rigid. Fiberglass, but it does have a couple of issues which we're going to get into here in a second, but we can solve those. So let's test fit it in the car and see how it looks. Now as we slide this in here, there is a lip on either side of the fender liner covers, and then there's some support pieces back here this will rest on. And we put this in there and it's more or less fits just like that. Now it's a little loose. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add some screws that secure this down, and then this is still a little flexible, a little more than I'd like. I'm actually going to put a piece of wood, I'm going to glue a piece underneath here that will give a little more strength this way. So I know we got this with these ribs, we've got plenty of strength this way, but not the other way. Now I'm not planning on sitting back here, but if you ever put anything back here, I don't want this thing to flex any more than it has to. And then we have a problem with the latch. Now, because the latch was on the bottom piece that we took out of the car, the metal latch, when you close the trap door, the latch has nothing to latch on now. And what we can do is we can glue a piece of wood on the edge, on this folded up edge here, and get a piece of angle or whatever, and we can make a latch for this thing to latch onto. But we do have to add that. That's not something that's part of this piece. And looking at it from inside the cab, there's a little bit of movement here. We can figure out where we're going to install, final install, but that's going to play a role in how far back that lip sits, so that piece the trapdoor can catch onto that. And the only other thing that I want to add to this, other than the rib piece underneath here for support, the piece on the back for the latches, I'm actually going to put some Dynamat type of material on the bottom of this just to insulate any exhaust drone or anything, just to dampen a little bit. So this is something that's not such an echoey part of the car. With that seat that was in here, it absorbs a lot of sound, but putting some Dynamat or something on the back side of this will help with that. Let's get it out of the car and we'll get it set up. Now, in order to set the depth for the latch of the trap door, we need to go ahead and mount this in the car. Now, in the back of the car, there's two little metal flat pieces that these are going to rest on, and I went ahead and marked where I want to drill a hole so that I can screw into those pieces. I'm going to put this in the car, and I'll just take a Sharpie and I will just mark, you know, through a hole to mark where I need to drill a hole so that these screws can mount in there. These are just little number 10 screws, nothing fancy, but they do have a white head on them, so it'll help, you know, secure everything. So let's put this in the car, mark it so I get those drilled, and we'll know where the depth is going to be for the latch. So you can see that I marked with a little Sharpie where this hole meets up. So I'm going to drill that out. And I should also point out too, when this is inside the car, you actually want to push it forward just a little bit. See how it kind of springs a little bit? There is, this piece along here is actually beveled backwards. So when you push it back, it'll stop. Not only will it hit in the back, but it'll also hit on the sides over here where it kind of needs to be just kind of pushed back. And then that's where you're going to make your mark. Now that we got the package tray secured, we can go ahead and see what the depth is for the trap door. See, it just opens, you know, there's nothing to latch on. So let's go in the back and measure the distance from the back side of this lip to the underside of that latch to see how much we need to soak up. All right, so if we measure from the back side of the fiberglass to the back side of the latch, it's gonna be hard to tell on the camera, but I got about 1 1/8 inch, 1 3/16 from there. So we need to fill up that distance. So there's a couple different ways you can do this, but ultimately we need to soak up at least 1 3/16 of an inch gap between the backside of this edge and that tab on the latch. Now I'm gonna use this piece of angle, this piece of aluminum angle for the edge, but I still need to soak up the distance. And if I use these two pieces, and I can glue them on, or you can screw them on. I got some heavy duty glue that I'm actually gonna use for that, and we'll talk about that in a second. So if I put that on there like that, and I put this piece on. Of course, I don't need all of it, but I'll just trim it down to what I need. Let's measure what that amount is. So right there, we are 1 1/4 inches. So I like that. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to use these 3 pieces. I'll glue this piece to this one, and then we'll glue it to here. And then I'm just gonna drill some hole. I'll cut a little piece about that long. We'll screw it on here with a couple of holes. And then what I can do is I can file a little bit of this edge down to make this a little bit, if the latch needs to come further, I can, you know, I'm good because I'm 1 1/4, I'm an extra 1/16 of an inch longer here, but I can make this work and I can trim it down if I need to for that latch to fit. So that's that piece. And then this piece, this is what I'm gonna add. This is just a piece of oak. I got it because it's just nice and strong, even though I'm sure pine would be fine. I'm gonna glue it on the bottom side of this. So this front edge, this is creating enough of the strength for the bowing part this way I was talking about earlier, because these ribs are helping with this, you know, way. And then there's that kind of hump in the back where the access to the top of the shocks are, and that's around this area. So I've got a space I'd like to fill up, and I'm gonna probably put this somewhere in here, and I'm gonna use some of that sound deadening material that's a foot wide. So it'd be nice if I could just put this in here, and then that piece would just lay in there without having to cut it, but we'll see how that comes out. But I'll get this glued in, get these made, and get all that done and see how it comes out. All right, now that we got this back piece glued on here, I got the bracket installed for the latch on the trap door, and I also have that piece glued underneath here in the middle of this package tray. I did want to point out that using Gorilla Glue does not work when you want to adhere wood to the backside of fiberglass. Glued it on there, let it sit for, gosh, like 12, 15 hours, and it just popped right off. So I wouldn't recommend that, but I did use this stuff here, this from Loctite, this PL3 Premium or PL3X Premium Loctite stuff. This worked out really good. This stuff is stuck on here, and that bottom piece is stuck on there really good. So let's get this in the car and see how the latch fits. Okay, now that we got the tray installed, everything's nice and secure, let's go ahead and see how the latch fits. So if we let this down, we lift up on the thing. Oh gosh, perfect. That's it, we are done. That thing is secure, it's not bouncing around, it's not rattling. I like it. All right. And here's what it looks like from the other side. Just close this up and then just slide that latch right over it. There we go. Perfect. All right. So now the next part I want to do is I want to put that Dynamat stuff on the bottom side of this, just to sound end it. And I'm going to put some trim edging piece that goes along the side of this just to clean it up. And I've got some foam that I'm going to put underneath the edges on both sides here, just so as this doesn't bounce around and it gets, you know, a little more secure. So let's take this back out one last time and get that Dynamat installed. Here's that foam I was talking about, and what it is, it's just a roll of that, you know, weather adhesive stuff that's only 3/4 inch wide, and it fits nice on the edge of the shelf here. So when I put that package tray on here, it'll rest on that and hopefully it won't rattle. All right, that's the last of the edge trim. So what I put on here is just some of it's almost like a wind lace. It's just an edge trimming. In fact, I got the idea from Crazy Casey's Customs YouTube channel. He put one of these in one of his fastbacks, and he had the same kind of trim on his package tray. And I like that idea because it cleans up the edges, makes it look really good. So then we also have this is actually boom mat. It's like a Dynamat. It's the same kind of stuff, but I bought it because I was able to get it in 2 foot by 1 foot sections. And that made it easier for laying this stuff out. I bought enough to do this front piece here, but I don't know if I'm gonna do that part. I don't know if I need to. We'll see down the road, but I got a little bit extra that I can put on here. And then I've got this trim on here, and then one of these roller wheels, you know, this for rolling these things on here. These things are only a couple bucks. You can pick these up pretty much anywhere. I'll put links to where all this stuff is, you know, where the package tray, you know, where I got this edge trim, the boom mat. I'll put all that stuff down below in the description. But now that we're done with this, let's go ahead and do a final install in the car and see how it comes out. All right, we are in for the last time. And I noticed when I put this trim on here, it does kind of make it a little bit snug fit towards the bottom. Down here on both sides. So, but that's good because we want this thing secured. We don't want it rattling around. The foam is working. It's resting on that. We're glued in or screwed in. And then the corner's there. Latch is in place. I think this came out really, really good. And this is nice and sturdy. I think we're set. All right, guys, I am happy with how that came out. That is exactly what I wanted. And it fits really good. It doesn't rattle around. It doesn't feel cheap right now, you know, with everything that we've done to it. So I think this is gonna be a win. This is something that I've been wanting to do for a long time, and it kind of sets me up for some stuff that I want to do down the road too, which is perfect, which is what I'm looking for. So like I said, I'm gonna have the links for that stuff down below if you guys wanna check that stuff out. And then I forgot to mention, when I was drilling those holes in the back corners for those 2 screws to position that tray, so I slid it back and I drilled some holes. I actually gave about a 1/16 or an 1/8 or something like that gap between the end of the tray and the back of the trim pieces, because I knew I was going to put that edge trim on the package tray, and I didn't want that to push it away and then the holes wouldn't line up. And I think I forgot to mention that earlier in the video, so just a heads up on that. Cool. All right, guys, that's another project done, and I'm happy. All right, we'll see you in the next one.